Welcome back at WNST. But I'm really not. I mean, other than some good barbecue and seeing some family over the weekend, I'm trying to stay upbeat here for Pittsburgh week. Many of my sponsors not only help me feed my family, and Dennis Koulatsos, you're part of that, but also part of the collective purple and orange therapy that we need for our misery here. I think I put the headline up on Facebook that you and I share our misery, but certainly at 4-4 and the shell-shockedness of all of this, and I know you're always watching the postgame and you always hear my questions to John Harbaugh and Joe Flacco and Eric Weddle in the postgame. I ask him all the same question. Are you shocked? I mean, you know why I ask him that question, Dennis? Because I'm shocked. I'm shocked that this thing came. I left my wife's seat in the upper deck, third quarter last week thinking we're almost 5-2, and I get on an airplane after a bad beating, a beating, not a bad beat, a bad beating in Charlotte, and they're 4-4, and here comes Pittsburgh, and here comes Cincinnati, and the offensive line is 60% depleted. These are not good times in Owings Mills this week, Dennis Koulatsos.
Well, they're not, but also, the Panthers' left side of offensive line, it was also decimated. They played with subs. Every team in the league has injuries this time of the year, and the Ravens are no exception. But neither were the Panthers. I think the most shocking thing was the physicality of the Panthers. The Ravens certainly weren't expecting that, but they got smacked in the mouth by both the offensive line and the defensive line of the Panthers. And I was very impressed with the Panthers. I'm sure you were as well. They look very much like a very strong, well-coached, very disciplined playoff team. Just like the Saints in a prior week that we lost to, and the Saints, they went into Minnesota, beat the Vikings. So the Saints, again, probably a top 2 or 3 team in the league. No shame in that. But this certainly was a major setback. A lot of questions for the Ravens. Joe Flacco's play, to me, is the biggest concern. Those 3 interceptions that he threw were just both backbreakers, and not a whole lot of good to say. And tomorrow is the NFL's trading deadline, and I'm wondering what kind of conversations they're having at the Castle these days.
Well, the bad interceptions with Flacco are something that I don't think we saw those the first month. I don't even know what to say or why he threw the ball, right? Like, the minute the ball gets let go, you're like, no, please don't do that. How did you do that? Why did you do that? I would say backbreaking, sure, in a game where you were never really in the game, in my mind. I mean, even after halftime, that they were crawling through this thing. I thought they looked fatigued, and I thought John Harbaugh came as close to agreeing with me for something that is, patently negative about your team. To say your team looks tired and looks fatigued. They looked fatigued to me on Sunday. They looked like the more tired team. They looked slow.
Well, they looked a step slow, and look, I saw people making excuses for them. They talked about the 5 preseason games, but you know what? Excuses and effort or lack of effort, none of that stuff matters. None of that stuff wins football games for you, but they look slow. You're right, and old. I mean, Terrell Suggs, Weddle, Jefferson, Mosley couldn't cover anyone. That's Jimmy Smith on the defensive side of the ball. They were horrific and didn't really help themselves going forward. And then I kept talking about Joe Flacco. I thought Lamar Jackson gave him a spark. Somebody said, well, Dennis, he gave him a spark in garbage time, but in the series before he got in there, Joe Flacco went 3 and out against the same defense. So to me, I'm telling you this, if Flacco comes out flat against the Steelers, if he has that deer in the headlights look, if I'm John Harbaugh, and I like John Harbaugh a lot, I want him to be our coach here forever, but I think another season like this, missing the playoffs, he's going to be gone, and he should be gone, and I like John a lot. So if I'm him, if I have any thoughts or designs on saving my season, I pull Flacco and I ride with the rookie. I live and die by the rookie, because if Flacco keeps playing this way, he's going to be out of a job at the end of the season. And I don't want to see that. I want to make myself clear about how I feel about John Harbaugh. I like him a lot.
I don't think anybody there feels like Lamar Jackson would give them a better chance to beat the Steelers this week. And I think if you ever see that, then there would be something about, like, is this Bisciotti? Is this Harbaugh? Is this DeCosta? Who's trying to keep their job? Who's not? I know the one guy that's not trying to keep his job is Ozzie, right? I mean, Ozzie's not coming back, right? So we know that much. So there's none of that sort of politicking going on. But this is an interesting time for them to to say Joe doesn't give us the best chance to win a football game this week. I think we're still far away from that, quite frankly.
I don't think so. I think they had a built-in excuse with the offensive line being decimated, missing 3 starters. You certainly want a more mobile quarterback back there, and that, of course, presents itself in Lamar Jackson. You got to love the way he finished the game. You got to love the way he threw the ball to Hayden Hurst for the touchdown. Look, a rookie quarterback, a new energy can energize both sides of the ball. We saw the effect that Deshaun Watson has had on the Houston Texans when healthy. But, there's an old adage in Nestor, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting, right? So it's insanity to continue doing the same thing. They've got to do something different to get some energy back on this team, to get the offense moving forward, because I tell you what, that was such a disaster, such a downer, and at 4-4 at this point of the season, they've got to go 6-2 the rest of the season to win the division, you would think, with a must-win game coming up against the Steelers. They've got to win this one. They've got to be at least 5-4 going to the bye. 4-5, you can kiss the season goodbye.
We talked a lot, Dennis, about health early in the year. And, other than Mosley getting nicked up early and, trying to get Hayden Hurst eventually onto the field, they have been mostly a healthy squad. I talk about them being fatigued. At this point, they're probably dinged up and banged up, and even more so with the offensive line. We spent such large stretches of time talking about the secondary and them never having enough Marlon Humphreys, enough Tavon Youngs, enough Jimmy Smiths in the back end, and not drafting well enough with the Matt Elams, and what that represents for spending money on Eric Weddle and spending money on Tony Jefferson and doing it that way. But the offensive line, the Rick Wagners, the Koulatsos and Nestor, the Ryan Jensens, they all go away. And then all of a sudden you start losing the guys you do have, whether it's Stanley, whether it's Alex Lewis. This offensive line, I am very worried. This is a bad week to be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, given the health of the team right now.
Well, the team ran the ball surprisingly effectively. They had the one fumble when Alex Collins never had a chance. He got hit as soon as he got the ball, but they got over 100 yards rushing collectively. And I thought they held up okay. I think Joe did have some time. I just think he made some bad decisions. I watched some film last night and into this morning. He had receivers open, Nestor. He just didn't see them in time. He wasn't going through his progressions. He was locking to his primary receiver. Once again, he went back to his old habits that Gary Kubiak and company raced for a minute, and when Gary left, so did those good habits. And to me, he just wasn't going through his progression. I give Lamar Jackson credit. Everybody wanted to pound on him because he short-hopped that ball to Willie Snead. But he was just shocked that the kid was open. That was probably his third option on that play. All he needs is time and repetition, and it looks like he's going to get a chance to play this year the way the season's unfolding.
Dennis Koulatsos is out at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Of course, they sponsor our WNST tech service. At some point, the Orioles will hire someone and give us a reason to send a text as Dennis chuckles out loud on the radio. And, of course, the Ravens this week trying to get some injury reports together as well. Well, the Ronnie Stanley thing's not good, right?
Yeah, you see your starting left tackle go. When you see Jermaine Illuminor at your left tackle, you know you got some problems. But again,
well, you're also not just seeing Jermaine Illuminor left tackle. You're seeing Jermaine Illuminor left tackle when you're down 17 points. Yeah. That's a whole different thing, I believe, than saying, when you're going to try to throw the football like that. I knew we were in a world of hurt. When you get behind like that, you don't have starting offensive linemen. Bad things are going to happen.
But you know what? That offensive line is well coached, Nestor. They've done a good job. They've been able to plug and play. Like I said, I don't think it was a lack of time by Flacco, and I don't think it was a lack of holes for the running back. I thought Alex Collins ran the ball real effectively. There were holes there to hit, and he hit them. I don't put it on the offensive line. Again, those guys are very well coached. I think they've done a good job given their talent level. But you're right, though. The Ravens have failed to invest in the trenches, particularly on the offensive line side of the ball, and that's come back to hurt this team. They've gone after skill players. But you got to have some big nasty offensive linemen to win in this league.
Man, I saw Stephon Diggs. I was flying back from Charlotte, catching balls like Spider-Man out there and whatnot. But after the DJ Moore thing, let's be honest. No one in purple could catch DJ Moore, even after he fumbled the ball and ran with it. And then Greg Olsen in the second half is the one guy, the seam down the middle. I don't see the Panthers play a lot, but when they're effective, Greg Olsen's a part of it, running loose in the middle of the secondary. It was a rough afternoon all the way around, and you've beaten Flacco up. We could beat Harbaugh up a little bit as well. But defensively, they didn't get it done. And the pass rush, nice to get a bunch of sacks on Mariota. But, when Newton gets running with the football, it's a tight end. It's no longer a quarterback when he's in space.
Yeah, he's just such a physical specimen. Look, he was fired up. He was having a great game. But, again, it's time to get some different personnel on that defensive side of the ball. They've gotten old, they've gotten slow again, and I'm referencing Suggs and Weddle. Jefferson's a liability in the pass game. C.J. Mosley in the contract year, he had his best game of the season against the Saints, and he had his worst game of the season against the Panthers. He is a liability in pass coverage. I think that'll knock down his market value. It's going to be interesting to see if the Ravens sign him to a long-term contract or not at the end of the season.
Dennis, tell me what's going on out of Coons Ford Security Boulevard, because I know it's very scary out there this week, Halloween week here, and you're going to have a costume on Wednesday. I mean, I'm waiting to see your costume out on social media.
Yeah. We got some costumes coming up. Our staff gets fired up. They love the holidays, and they love different things. They love dressing up. So we have some surprises to post on social media for Wednesday. Our customers also get dressed up, so it's a very fun, festive week. It's month end for us. We have great deals for our customers, and lots of inventory and lots of cars and service at our body shop. It's a very busy place, and we stay aggressive. We play for injuries, and we perform at a high level every single day.
Man, graveyards and ghosts and goblins and Ben Roethlisberger all in the same week. It's wonderful, isn't it?
Look! It's going to be a great week. As usual, when the Ravens play the Steelers, you can throw out all the records. It doesn't matter where they are. It's a dog fight. It should be a tight game. They always won. I'm sure that they're looking at this as payback, right? Proper payback, as they're in first place in the division, as they try to hold on to that, and we try to take it away from them because it's there for the taking. If there's one silver lining, Nestor, we all know this, is that the division's right there. The Steelers can be beat, so can the Bengals, and the Browns. They're going to Brown. Still surprised that Hugh Jackson has a job as we speak right now.
By the way, Dan, I would say this to you. Luke and I did not get a whole lot of sleep after the Pittsburgh game, right? So, we walk out of Three Rivers or in that whole area, whatever the hell they're calling it, Heinz Field at 2:20 in the morning. We were on a 5:55 a.m. flight, and we're coming back. And I said to Luke, I'm like, man, 3-1. This feels nice. This is good. This is really, really cool. I said, I wonder what our record and their record will be when we see him in 5-6 weeks, right? Like, they're going the other way, and we just beat the snot out of them. I mean, we beat them kind of the way the Panthers beat us, sort of in a very convincing style. And here we are 4 weeks later, and they're 2 games over 500. We're at 500 playing for our lives. And for the Steelers, I don't say it's just another game for them because they already lost the first one. They need to get one up at some point. But it's a chance to bury the Ravens this week here, right? Literally.
Yeah, it's a chance to bury the Ravens. It's also a chance for the Ravens to pin what will amount to a fourth loss on the Pittsburgh Steelers record, too. So it's a big game for both teams. They both have a chance to set each other back. And, of course, the Steelers, as you mentioned, they have a chance to set the Ravens way, way back. But, look, glad this game was M&T Bank Stadium versus up there. I would hedge my bets with that, and the defense should be able to bounce back. They know this personnel. They've seen them before. It's not like the Panthers when you're going on the road against a team you haven't faced in a few years. You know what you're getting with the Steelers, right? We'll see a healthy dose of Connor at running back, and we'll see some Antonio Brown, and we match up real well with these cats. And unless Roethlisberger plays out of his mind, you got to like our chances. Never mind what happened with Carolina. It's a week-to-week league, and they get to start fresh if that's the only redeeming factor they have going for them.
Dennis, I don't dispute what you say much, but I'm about to dispute something. You said, unless Roethlisberger plays out of his mind. If Roethlisberger plays out of his mind, it's the Ravens' defense fault. Then he plays out of his mind, right?
Well, they'll contribute to that. But look, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Look, they've got to play this game like their lives depend on it, like the season's on the line, because it is. You talk about a must-win. We talk about must-win games. This is truly a must-win game for the Ravens.
Dennis Koulatsos can be found at Coons Ford Security Boulevard as well as on Thursday from 3 until 5. I will join him around 4:15. As it is Pittsburgh week around here. Also, make sure you're subscribing to our WNST text service. You'll get all the breaking news whenever the Orioles decide to do whatever they're going to do, as well as all the injury reports this week on Ronnie Stanley and the whole offensive line, quite frankly, and getting ready for the Steelers and Yins and that. at 1 o'clock downtown on Sunday. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.